Hello from wherever you're dialing in from. I know we've got a global audience, so that's why I always say that, because it's literally could be anywhere that you guys are dialing in from. In fact, comments have been turned off on this channel for a long time because we were having some issues with some trolls. So far, so good. We've opened the comments back up and we're just kind of keeping an eye on things, but I would love for you guys to comment on this video where you're watching this from. I get fascinated just kind of seeing where people have stumbled upon a video or an interview or something that's led them to keep watching and how you landed here. I would love just where you are and how you found us, how you found Nurture Your Soul. I say us because I think of this as the God Squad's channel as much as it is mine. The message that comes through here is them, not me. So I just get to play the microphone, and I love that. I don't have any resentment about that at all. It's really actually pretty cool what I get to do. So following on with some of the recent videos and seeming to be the topic that really people are interested in, I thought I would go a little bit deeper of what a psychic session is like and what it entails working one-on-one with me. I've never created a video like this, and I've had lots of people message me and ask what it entails, and it would be really nice to be able to just send them a link and say, this really covers the gist of what working with a soul guide looks like. And that's what I call myself, a soul guide. Ever since my near-death experience in 2008, when all of this kind of opened up, this thing has been unfolding on its own. It's not something that I do. It's not something that I cause. It's not something that I initiate. It is a complete movement out of the way of this Kelly self so that this bigger oneness can deliver the messages is really all that's happening. It's so simple and so subtle that we want to overcomplicate it. And my hope is that each time I create a video and a sharing, it whittles down those beliefs that some people have. And I'm not ever going to put another person down that does this line of work, but I will point to some things that I've been told that I think are, things to be mindful of. So for me, I've mentioned that for 38 years, this was not a part of my experience. So again, I totally relate to the fascination of how this would work in a physical body, to all of a sudden wake up and see dead people, to talk to and communicate with things that other people apparently aren't seeing, ghosts, we call them, spirits, we call them, those on the other side, those who have transitioned, guides, angels, archangels, ascended masters, and light beings, anyone that's supporting us in this work that we do. And you guys know I call them my God Squad. Bernadette is my birth guide, so I'll start with her because she was really my introduction to this whole other side and really understanding that I was no longer the Kelly that I had been prior to committing suicide, that everything had shifted and opened up, and now I was seeing and hearing and communicating with those on the other side. As I've also shared in some of my earlier videos, this has not always been a smooth road. And there were so many times along this path where I would hear Kelly exude, I just want to go back to before this was part of my life, or I just would prefer to have the awareness and let this whole psychic piece fall away. And I've said that. I've said if anything were to dissipate, I would be okay with it being what I consider to be more of magical, mystical gifts than that of consciousness or awareness expansion. To me, that's where the meat and guts of this thing is. And as gory as that sounds, that is what expands this magical piece. they go hand in hand. And anyone who tells you otherwise is probably either fearful of this or has some preconceived notion about this. And I just don't get hung up on debating with anyone about anything, which is why I think Nurture Your Soul and this work that I do has never fallen under a religion or a bucket. People put me in psychic buckets and Advaita buckets, and I'm okay with being in all the buckets. I don't have any opposing feelings about it, but I am also very conscientious about the fact that this is, like everything, impermanent, and it could dissipate tomorrow, or it could become more elaborate tomorrow, and none of that is any of my business. What's here now is loved and welcomed and appreciated and utilized, and I do as much as I can to give back through work that I do in projects with others, or in spiritual counseling, one-on-one soul guidance, as well as working with at-risk youth, and some collaborations and interactions with those who do work with hospice. I'm no longer engaging in direct one-on-one type vigil work, but there is a drawing and a calling to potentially get back to that. So we'll see what happens. It's just out of my hands. But the work that I do is through me, not of me. And when someone schedules a one-on-one session with me, it could be a variety of ways of looking at things. And what I love about the consciousness expansion, sitting next to or partnering up with the psychic modalities, mediumship, channelship, whatever you want to call it, they do intrinsically relate to one another. And the only way for Kelly to get out of the way is to understand that she is not doing this. This is of God, from God, of universe, from universe, of source energy, consciousness, whatever you call this, whatever you label this. And it is truly a magnificent thing to experience sitting across from someone who's grieving or in pain because they've lost someone, and be able to give them a connection to that and be able to allow them to ask questions and get the validation that they might be seeking. I'm not fussed when I do one-on-one sessions with people of how much they share or how little they share. I like a blank canvas. I like it when people don't tell me much. Usually I'll ask if they want to connect with something to give me an area, like a life area, like work or finances or love. If they want to connect with someone either still in the physical body or on the other side, I'll ask for a first name. And Bernadette has been, my proficient guide and mentor in this whole process from day one. And I've trusted her emphatically because everything she has shown me and told me has always been 100% accurate. You won't find that level of accuracy in the 3D world. And so when I hear Kelly exude things like, I wish I could go back to being unaware of this psychic piece, immediately follows, but what in this 3D world has ever delivered the level of accuracy and truth, vulnerability, and integrity that you've received from the other side? Wow. How can I respond to that? It hasn't. The 3D life, as beautiful as it is truly, it is a dreamscape. And if we're out here in the dreamscape looking for the answers, we are going to suffer and hurt. So I'm not as in tune with or as interested in trying to help people see a future or see a vision. I'm trying to be a soul guide that walks literally beside you, holding your hand and saying we're walking each other home in this part, in this moment, in the play. This is where we were to come together, and our souls have agreed to have this interaction, and this is the information that would be coming forward to you in this way. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to experience, to get to offer and to get to show up and provide to people in this way. I don't take it for granted, but I won't lie. There are days where, less and less over 14 years, where I've woken up and just said, it would be nice to walk through my grocery store today and not be hearing and feeling all of the things I'm hearing and feeling. Those who know me well have witnessed how much this has settled for me over the years. It used to be overwhelming to go to a mall or to a big amphitheater or a big football stadium. And it used to drain me. I didn't understand all of the things that I could ask for or I could do to support myself in this. And when I hear other people who do this work say, you know, I saw 4 clients, I'm exhausted, I've given all my energy away, I'm depleted, I remember experiencing that, and it took time for me to learn to navigate and understand that we don't have to take that energy on to be able to be the microphone. In fact, we're not intended to. There's the ability to view it and to share it without having to re-experience it or take the energy on. Being empathetic to other people's feelings and emotions out in an environment, in a space. Yes, there are those of us who are very sensitive to that. But again, if you're complaining about being an empath and picking up everyone's energies and it being too overwhelming and blah, 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 that's exactly and precisely the type of work that I would love to help dive in with you on and show you a different way. Utilizing the ability to communicate with our guides, like I do with Bernadette. Being able to communicate and have validation with those on the other side. Those are things that I support in the work that I do. But we go much deeper than that. And there are 3 prongs that I kind of tell people you can expect if you're having a session with me. One is going to be a complete purview of what you're wanting to look at from an overall understanding, consciousness, awareness understanding. That is just looking at it from a deeper, more meaningful perspective, a bigger filter, if you will. And then taking that, which is kind of my first purview, then I go in with the lens of the psychic, intuitive, medium channel piece, and I start to look at that and say, okay, based on what's coming through from an awareness perspective, let's go deeper and understand what's underneath all of that. And then the third component is tying those together and seeing how the braid creates the harmony that we need. And it is a dualistic approach. We are in duality. Even those of us are aware that this is a dreamscape, we're still here in it. There is still the avatar experiencing this, and we were never intended to do this blindfolded. As I've mentioned in many videos, these gifts that I now have, and I use gifts not in being silly or disgracious or uncrediting to what it is. I use that because it makes it seem as though it's something special or something that I have that others don't, and that's just not the way of it. It's not the truth. We are all intended to have all of our sensations and all of our awarenesses fully triggered, fully tuned in, and fully turned on. And those things get shut off and collapsed with being in the physicality and taking every label and every teaching as our own is creating the veils to that which we are intended to have. So again and again and again in every video I say this is an unlearning, it's an unraveling, it's a shedding process, not a learning process. Certainly I can help with modalities and ways of showing you a different way to perceive things. But the work is always going to be about deleting the old programs and deleting the old memories and deleting the old ideas and concepts and beliefs that have built up over years and years and years of being in this experience of avatar life. So a typical reading goes like this. Let me take a sip and think of one that would be good to talk about. And I only share ones that I've been given permission to share, by the way. I do not ever share someone's session unless they've given me permission or asked me to. And many people do ask me to, so I think it's sweet. So one of my recent sessions was with a young teenage gal. She had just turned 17. She was well versed in driving, and she was very much appreciating being able to have the freedom and the ability to just take off and go. The struggle that brought her to me was that she wasn't relating to her parents at this stage because they weren't as excited about her ability to just take off and go. And having gone through this pretty recently myself, with my son just now being 21, I related to this exact experience. So it was fun to get to look at it from an awareness perspective, a psychic perspective, and as a mom who relates to her and the parents. She had shared with me that when she would get in the car and she would drive, she didn't want anyone to know, but she was hearing things. She was hearing things that were coming to her out of her left ear. So she would be driving and she would be distracted by what felt like voices and felt like an auditory connection, but it wasn't crisp, it wasn't clear. And at first it was scaring her. But by the time she got in to see me, we had already talked on the phone, and I had already said to her, just do a nice sage and smudge of your car and just ask for that energy to not alarm you while you're driving and to give you a little bit of space for us to talk, and then we can reapproach it. Because I was not picking up that it was anything of any ill intent, which I never do, by the way. That's only our perceived notion. Yes, it can be scary, as I've mentioned in my earlier videos. I had that experience too until I was able to understand it and communicate with it a little bit more and really come to an understanding that there was nothing to fear. It was just my thoughts and concepts. And how cute is this little darling laying behind me? I have to turn it just so you can see him going into his little nap mode, snoring behind me. So when she finally was able to see me, it was an in-person session because she's local to me and actually a daughter of a client that I've had. It's okay, buddy. Leave it alone. So she wanted me to get in her car. So we met at a cafe. And so I went and sat in her car for a minute, and she was explaining to me what had been happening and how it was, really coming into this ear, and it was getting louder. And even though she had saged and she had done everything we had said, something was desperate to get her attention. So as I got in the car, we shut the doors and we sat there for a minute. I immediately sensed her grandmother. This was the grandmother on her maternal side. So I'm going to tell you the story, but I'm also going to tell you how I perceived it so you get an example of what's going on. So we're sitting in the car. She's sharing with me what's going on, and already, before we even get to her pausing, Grandma's already connected. And for me, when I say connected, it's not like I'm calling them in or calling them down or calling them forward or any of these grandiose things. The connection is just the connection. We are one source energy. So Grandma immediately came through, and I could visually see her. I was smelling her cigarette smoke, which is a very common thing for me, and that's a validation point for Milo Fuzzies. That is a continual validation point for people. Things like that will pop through: smells, colors, scents. In the early days, I often wouldn't say those things because I thought that's useless information. But as I continued to not be the stubborn person that I can be and actually listen to Bernadette. She was saying to me, that may not be meaningful to you, but it could be very meaningful to the person you're working with. So don't be afraid to share what you're getting, even if it seems a little crazy, which sometimes it does. When they show me polka dotted cows flying, I say it now, even if it feels crazy. And I'm determined to get this Milo fuzz off my lip. So Grandma's there, young gal still telling me the story, very elaborate. She's giving me every detail, which is so cute. It's normally how teenagers go. You either get nothing or you get all of it. So I'm getting time with Grandma. I'm listening to my client, but I'm also already understanding what's going on. So as she wraps up, she reaches up on the rear view mirror hanging between, obviously, the two seats. And she grabs this beautiful, colorful necklace that was hanging there. And she's like, I'm going to bring this in with me. And as she grabbed it, Grandma says to me, that was mine. I left it for her. That's what I've been asking her to do, to wear it. So I didn't say anything. So she happens to grab this. She wraps it around, almost like a rosary around her wrist, and then kind of puts it in her fingers. And we walk into the cafe. And we order our drinks and we sit down, and she excuses herself to the restroom, and she leaves this necklace as she goes. So I picked it up and I'm holding it, and Grandma's explaining to me what the meaning was behind this necklace and how it had felt like a protection for her when she was alive, and that's why she had gifted it to this particular granddaughter, and the granddaughter took it upon herself to hang it in the car, thinking that that was going to protect her when she was driving. But Grandma wanted her to wear it. Grandma was saying, put it on you. You're going through a lot right now. You're going through a lot of changes, and I feel closer to you when you wear it. So, is there a connection for those on the other side to physical things, like a necklace, like a box, or like a letter that they've left? Yes and no. So, if we believe that to be the case, then that is the case. It is that simple. Everything is a connection point to thought. That which we are believing, we intrinsically take on. It's why two people can be diagnosed with the exact same condition by the same exact doctor with the same exact DNA. Maybe they're identical twins, and they can have completely different experiences based on the thought patterns that they go into that physical illness with. That's been proven. That's not woo-woo. That's scientific fact. It's no different with an object. This object holds absolutely no more energy or purpose than this one. We can say this one's more purposeful because I can look things up, I can answer emails, I can make phone calls. This just allows me to see, and that's about it. So we give this a lot more meaning, right? The necklace itself holds only that meaning which the client perceives and the grandmother exudes. Nothing more. Does that make it wrong? No. As long as we're aware of these things, we become co-creators in this experience of all the variables because we're not attached to any of them. We're not clinging to any of them. They all become magical. They all become mystical. They all hold a purpose. So as we're sitting there sipping our coffee, and I now have the down low about the necklace, I explained to her everything that had come through. I explained to her what Grandma was asking her to do, and she started crying, but she was laughing at the same time. So I just waited for her to kind of catch her moment, because we all have that experience where we're like verklempt, right? We've heard so much and we're like overwhelmed, and that's what was happening. And she was expecting to get this scary, demon in her car experience. And it was this loving grandmother who was wanting to be a protection and wanting her to put this necklace on and wear it during some very shifting times for this young gal. So as she composed herself and she took a couple sips of her coffee and calmed down, she said to me, "The day that I got my driver's license, my mom had said we should put a medallion in your car to keep you safe. And the intention and the purpose was for us to go get something that was meaningful to us, whatever that was." And I didn't inquire. She said that things happened so quickly with her birthday and her getting her license and taking off that didn't happen. But she remembers the first day she got to go drive by herself. She grabbed her phone charger and she was looking around her room for something that made her feel safe. And there was Grandma's necklace hanging up. And she grabbed it, just like she did with me, and wrapped it around her wrist, she said, and put it in her hand, so that the actual colorful piece, which I hadn't spent a lot of time paying attention to it yet, other than holding it and connecting with Grandma, was in her hand. She said, and I grabbed that and I took it and I put it in my car and I hung it on the rear view mirror and I wrapped it around a few times so it wouldn't dangle down too low, but that I would see the beautiful colors that were coming through. And she said, "Did you look at it?" And I said, "I actually didn't really spend a lot of time looking at it. May I?" So she hands it back to me and I'm sitting there with it in the palm of my hand, really looking at it. And I see that it is a flattened, almost like a resin, but it was glass. This very old piece that was full of dried flowers, what looked like dried flowers, very colorful. But if you held it up, it was clear. So the dried flowers were really in the glass or the resin, if you will. And the necklace and the chain and everything were real gold. This was a real piece that Grandma had saved for her. And it was gorgeous. It was stunning. So as I'm looking at it and I'm taking this in, I'm thinking how beautiful it is. But again, Grandma starts speaking to me and she says, "This necklace is full of many things. Yes, it's beautiful, but it's more than this. Inside of this necklace, she had, what do you call someone who fuses glass? There's probably a name for it. Is it a glassmith, like a goldsmith? I don't know. It's a Kellyism. So we'll call it a glassmith. The glassmith had embedded within the glass, when heating it, ashes of several family members, including several pets, and the flowers, dried flowers and crushed flowers from her wedding day. And so it was all compacted into this beautiful necklace. Now there's so much more meaning. I still get chills when I talk about it. Grandma wanted this to land right between her heart. So she had even had the chain lengthened so that when she wore it, it sat right here in between her heart. So beautiful. So what the client was hearing, the auditory piece, was Grandma. It was scratchy because she wasn't trusting herself enough yet to allow that to come through. And it was feeling scary to her because she wasn't connecting it to Grandma yet. So it felt like something trapped in the car that was out to get her when she was driving. Now Grandma's laughing, I'm laughing, client's laughing, and we're all getting hysterics out of this. And the gal that worked at the cafe came to check on us to see if we wanted more waters or anything. And she saw the necklace on the table and she scooped it up and she said, "This is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen." And the granddaughter said, "I know, isn't it?" And she took it and she put it on and she dangled it with such beauty and such pride and such love. For the rest of our session, she was holding it, she was rocking, she was touching it. So does that thing have more meaning now? Absolutely. It's imbued with her love. It's imbued with her energy. It's imbued with that moment. But it doesn't mean it thrives within that object. It's what the intention is that's being given to it. Just like grandma's intention was to put all these loving things together to leave behind to someone she loved and adored, that she wanted to feel safe, protected in her absence. Grandma continued to express all the things that had been embedded in the necklace, all the reasons it was important to her, all the things she had worn it through in her life that were challenges that helped her to get through, including the loss of her husband to cancer. The granddaughter now saw this necklace for something very different, but she also was able to now understand that the communication was an effort from grandma to let her know she was loved. And in the effort, you always come right when we get to the piece of love. Why is that? It's like you just know. It's like you just know. He just got a bath, so he's all fluffy and he smells so good. Don't you? Oh, yes. So that's what we see in a session. Now, that's not every session. Some of the sessions are heavier, and some of the sessions are people in grief. Some of the sessions are people who are having spiritual blockages, and there's areas in their life they can't seem to break through. There's people who have had sleeping disorders or medical issues or loops in their life that they can't seem to work through. And as a soul guide, those are the areas that I get to come in and help assist. And I love this work. I love all of it. I love the fascination and the excitement and the joy. I love working with someone that doubts and leaves believing, not because I did anything, but because I truly got more out of the way than I do with others to give them what they really need. It's not about them saying, gosh, Kelly, you're so good at this. It's about them saying, oh my gosh, there's more to life than what I've thought. And it forces them, or encourages them is a better word, to start down their own path of understanding, because now they can trust something that's outside of themselves that perhaps they never trusted. I find it uniquely hilarious too that so many will say that they are a believer of God, or they're an atheist, or they're a Buddhist, but I don't believe what you do. And that's okay. There's nothing here that needs to convert anyone. The conversion process is a personal one, and it's not mine, and I don't take any of it personally. But I do find it hilarious that we can find a belief in one thing and not perceive that that one thing could shift. We've put it in a box. We don't allow magic to come to it or through it, through our own belief systems. So even if you are a non-believer and you come with an openness or a willingness to be open, that's the mustard seed that's been planted to allow faith to get in. As long as that remains, there's always an opportunity to get in, right? So that's what a psychic session looks like. That's what working with a soul guide looks like. We meet, we discuss the areas of your life that you would like to delve deeper into. If there's someone who's transitioned or someone who's still in the physical body that you're not connecting with fully and you're having problems, whether it's a pet or a loved one, it doesn't really matter. If there's a life area that you're wanting to look at and explore, if there are patterns or loops that seem to be cycling, that seem to be causing suffering, those are the things we can transmute and work on clearing. Every session is different. There's no two alike. I get as shocked and amazed as the person on the other side, because again, it's not me doing this. I'm the vessel. I'm the one it comes through. I'm the one that this work resides through. So then the last piece, this one's always an interesting one to cover. And it's one of the reasons that comments did get shut down on YouTube for a while, and we're watching it, is that people really get upset with the idea of someone doing this work and actually charging for their time and their services. So let's look at that one a little bit, because I've had to grapple with that one myself over the years. I have maintained my corporate work for 14 years. I've raised my son, and I've said that Nurture Your Soul is never going to be the way that I survive financially. I want to be able to offer this to people in a way that it's affordable to them, and yet they leave feeling like they've accomplished something that has made them feel fulfilled in what they're trying to do. So for 14 years, I've charged the same amount for my one-on-one sessions. A portion of that has always gone to at-risk youth, hospice, or a project that I'm doing for a family at a difficult time. And I've been able to do that and maintain being a single mom, work a full-time job, and offer this back to my community in the world. But as I'm migrating further into my ability and desire to do this full-time, I'm also repositioning my mindset on that to recognize that this is the work that I am called forward to do. And as such, like all human beings, I have to live and I have to survive. I by no means wish to be one of these people who charges $500 an hour, who is months or years booked out, who is chosen to go a different syndicated way than I have been guided with my God Squad. And again, that's not judging others for their choices at all. I'm establishing what my choice is, or my apparent variability that seems to line up the best here in the story of Kelly. Okay, we hear you. We love you. Settle down. Okay. He needs to go out, so he's making sure I know that he needs to go out. So if you message me and you're interested in a session, and the response is how it works, and part of that is a payment, if that is offensive to you, then this is not the right place for you. And I can respect that you feel that I should be donating all of my time, all of my energy, and all of my availability to something that apparently isn't worthwhile as someone else who does work, whether they're a pastor, a minister, a priest, a Buddhist monk. Each is awarded some type of payment to do the type of work that we do. And I'm not putting myself in the same bucket as all of those people. I'm just aligning to the fact that we all have to survive in life. And I love doing this. It's my passion. And to be able to continue to do it, I have to charge people. I've also found that when you give people something for free, they don't take as much credence to it. And if you don't believe me, let me tell you. Over the years, I've had clients who have messaged me and said, I can't afford to see you. And I gift them time. And I spend time with them. And I give them homework. And I tell them, if you continue to do the work that we've discussed here, I will continue to see you. And they disappear. And then I might hear from them a couple years later, and they may say, I wish I had done the work. I now understand that I should have stuck with it. Thank you for trying to support me during that time. And I've had quite a few of those. And then there's the others who just can't get over the concept of having to pay someone to work with them. So I don't want to belabor this point to death, but I've never talked about it in any video, and I felt like it was time. I am a soul guide. I do one-on-one sessions. I do work with clients in this capacity. I love this work, whether it's psychic readings, it's Advaita expansion and direct pointing work, whether it's unraveling things that feel painful or helping people uncluster things that feel clustered. I love all of it and I welcome all of it, but I want to set the platform and the stage correctly for people who are interested. If you're interested, let's work together, but let's show up with an open mind, a willingness to understand that this work that we're doing together has always been intended to be the way that it is, and that there is an energy exchange. In this 3D world, that energetic exchange is monetary. We give far too much meaning to this money thing, but it is our way of drinking, eating, and paying for dog food. And most of us, many of us, I've found, are always giving and gifting and paying it forward in our time and our energy and in our way, especially if we come from a true and open, sincere heart. So I feel completely okay with what I charge, and it's very reasonable compared to others. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and just say I hope this was helpful. I tried to answer as many questions as many of you might have. Is there anything I missed? Milo might have a closing word, as he often does. Any closing thoughts? Any imparting wisdom? Yes, I talk to pets. I talk to animals. I didn't used to think that I could do this until I got quiet enough to recognize, like everything, it's just an energy. And now this one doesn't stop talking. Right now, he's very focused on getting out there. He sees Twinkle, his best friend, in the yard, and he knows that I'm talking to someone and it's not him. That's about it that he has to offer today. Is that it? Okay, bud. All right, so we're going to wrap this up so that I can take him out. But I hope that it was helpful, and I hope that it gave you some purview and understanding of what this looks like, what this... Okay, we can stop licking now. Mommy's going to put her jacket on, and we're going to go outside. What this is like. This crazy, mixed up, amazing, beautiful, sometimes scary, sometimes upside down, sometimes sporadic, and sometimes perfectly flowing life that we all live is gorgeous. And we meet people along our path in no coincidence. And they show up right when we need them. And often they bring messages we didn't even realize were being sprinkled upon us from God Himself. Himself being an energy, not a person. So if you're watching this today, perhaps, just perhaps, this is the sprinkling and the message you needed to hear to trust yourself a little bit more, to understand that there are people out here that have a true, sincere desire to be helpful, that are honest and integrous, that come from a place of love and a place of wanting to serve. So I hope you can receive that today. With love, much love, until next time, right? We get the glasses, we're learning. We get the glasses and we do the things. You say goodbye? You goodbye? Oh, goodness. This old man loves you too. Until next time, much love.